Right now on Upfront.
Battleground Blitz.
The path to the White House runs right through this state.
Less than 90 days to go, the presidential campaigns in Wisconsin. Trash talk on the tarmac in Eau Claire.
I just wanted to check out my future plane.
Now, 1 week from the Democratic National Convention, Democratic enthusiasm rebounding.
It feels like we're back in Obama days to me.
The battle for Wisconsin intensifying. Our guest this Sunday, DNC Executive Director Sam Cornell, Republican Party of St. Croix County Chairman Matthew Rusk.
Dead heat. I think we've learned the lesson in Wisconsin that you cannot take races for granted.
The new Marquette, Wisconsin poll, those enthusiasm numbers, the double haters, Charles Franklin with the new analysis standing by. Primary election day, the hot races to watch Tuesday, J.R. Ross with his guide to the drama and the implications ahead of November.
And worldwide watch.
So they're all waiting and watching.
The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations in Wisconsin, what those world leaders are saying about President Biden dropping out.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Officially less than 90 days to go. And what more could possibly happen?
Right now, an essential dead heat here in Wisconsin, growing enthusiasm among Democrats in the polls, and now just 1 week out from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. This past week, Vice President Kamala Harris, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz campaigning in Eau Claire. Republican Vice President nominee J.D. Vance countering at a local manufacturer.
We're going to get to it all. We start with the convention 1 week out. Let's bring in Sam Cornell, Executive Director of the Democratic National Committee, who's now going to be the traveling chief of staff with Governor Walz. Sam, good to see you.
Great to be with you and your viewers.
Here we are 1 week out from the convention in Chicago. Vice President Harris already officially nominated, the vote certified this past week officially. I'm curious, is there any scenario where Harris and Walz are not the Democratic ticket? Trump and Vance have continued to say in recent days, well, listen, anything is possible.
No, they are the nominees. We are really excited to celebrate them, their historic nomination in Chicago in just a few short days. But listen, folks are fired up. I mean, just yesterday we had two massive rallies in Wisconsin and in Eau Claire, specifically, and in Michigan, more than 10,000 people at each rally. In Eau Claire, the line was 1.5 miles long to get in. I mean, this is a ticket that is inspiring. Folks are fired up, and that's because they represent Wisconsin values.
With the virtual nomination behind the scenes, was this in part to ensure that there was no chaos on the convention floor?
No, this was about ballot access deadlines. So in states like Ohio and Washington and other places, historically, those states have worked with us to say, okay, we know who the nominee is going to be. We'll give you a pass and you'll be on the ballot. Most of those states did work with us this go around, but one in particular in Ohio, where the mega extreme Republicans wanted to play games because they can't win a fair fight. And we were not confident that we could make the ballot if we waited until the in-person convention. So we took matters into our own hands and got it done.
Sam, I want you to take us inside of the convention next week a little bit if you can. Are you, as the DNC, preparing for the scenario of any protest inside or even outside of the United Center?
Well, listen, unlike the Republican Party under Donald Trump, we respect people's First Amendment rights. We respect and protect their freedoms. So, you know, we have a plan in place for any scenario. Protests happen at every convention, and we're going to make sure that people can do so safely, that they can exercise their First Amendment right, and that we can put on a positive, hopeful, optimistic, celebratory convention. So I have no doubt we will achieve that goal, and you know, a huge testament to the local leaders in Chicago who've been preparing this for a couple years.
The nomination is official. We know that already, but will there still be that ceremonial roll call at the convention next week? And if so, what will that look like?
Absolutely. I'm really excited. I don't have a preview for you just yet, but you know, in 2020, our virtual roll call got a ton of attention. It was really a phenomenal way to bring people into the political process who hadn't been involved before. Obviously, we're now in person, but I suspect that there will be some interesting, fun elements of that roll call from 2020, along with, you know, the tried and true in the arena, you know, folks from Alabama to Wyoming and everywhere in between raising their hand and saying we support Vice President Harris and Governor Walz.
What night should we expect to see President Biden speaking?
I think that's still up in the air. There have been some rumors about when that'll happen, but I'll leave it to the powers that be to figure that out. But here's what you will hear. You will hear a hopeful, positive vision for the future of America. And compare that to what we saw in Milwaukee just a couple weeks ago. Republicans were talking about how it was going to be a unifying effort. That's what Americans are craving, but it's not what they delivered.
Who else should we expect to hear from the week of the convention, specifically former presidents like Bill Clinton, Barack Obama?
I would suspect you'll hear from them. I think you'll also hear from a lot of folks, what we call down ballot, governors and state elected officials, local elected officials. The Democratic Party has a massive bench. We've been winning a lot. In Wisconsin, in the Midwest, nationally. The last 7 years have been a really strong run, and as you saw from just the VP selection process alone, we've got a lot of talent in the party, and you're going to hear from all of them.
Sam, you mentioned your Wisconsin roots. Before we go quickly, I'm curious, how close is Wisconsin going to be? How high is it on your radar, and how do Democrats win the state?
Wisconsin's critical to our path to victory. I mean, 5 of the last 6 presidential elections were decided by around or under 1 single percentage point. President Biden and Vice President Harris won Wisconsin in 2020, but we expect it to be close, and so we've been preparing for more than a year.
An incredibly few busy weeks ahead. Sam Cornell, the Executive Director of the Democratic National Committee. Hey, Sam, thank you.
Go Packers.
The campaigns in Eau Claire, part of a major battleground blitz, also highlighting the battle for western Wisconsin. Republicans have made significant gains with former President Donald Trump on the ticket, but Democrats, in part with Tim Walz on the ticket, now looking to cut into that.
Is this about closing the gap in every other county or surrounding Eau Claire County where we are?
I think in every county, we're looking to add Democratic votes. And we have to expect that Republicans are going to add votes as well. There's a lot of folks, you heard some of them here today, who've moved to Wisconsin, to western Wisconsin, from the Twin Cities, from Minneapolis. We want to make sure all those folks are registered in Wisconsin, their new home, and are voting for Democrats here. There's a lot of folks who've been here for generations, and over the years, sometimes voted Republican, sometimes voted Democrat. We want them to know that they're seen, that they're valued, and that we want to earn their vote so we can protect their freedom and opportunity in their own communities.
All right, let's bring in Matthew Rust. He's chairman of the Republican Party of St. Croix County, which includes Hudson, and essentially goes as far west as you can go before crossing the Minnesota border. Matthew, good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt. Glad to be here.
We'll get to the state of the race in western Wisconsin in a second. First, I'm curious your reaction on Minnesota Governor Tim Walz being picked as the running mate. Were you surprised by that pick by Vice President Harris?
Yes, I think a lot of Republicans were. Tim Walz is one of the most radical leftist Democrat governors in the country. And I think there were several other choices, including the governor of Pennsylvania, maybe the governor of Michigan as well, that maybe would have maybe not been quite so progressive, possibly, but might have been able to at least strategically help to garner votes in those states where Minnesota has been fairly solidly blue for a while. So strategically, I think it was a surprise to a lot of people.
Matt, Craig Gilbert, who's now a fellow at Marquette's Alubar Center, posted this past week that about 7% of the statewide vote in 2020 came from Wisconsin voters who live in a Minnesota TV market. So we're talking about either Minneapolis or Duluth. Do you think that that's going to help Democrats having Tim Walz on the ticket?
Possibly, but I do think his overall record and what he's done as a governor, people have seen that in western Wisconsin, and we have so many people contacting us weekly about how they can get involved in the Republican Party in Wisconsin. Now, these are Minnesota residents contacting us in St. Croix County, asking how they can help us and become involved. We've also seen quite an influx of people moving into St. Croix County and western Wisconsin from Minnesota to get away from the policies that are in place there.
Bring me inside your ground game, Matthew, over the next 90 days on the local level in western Wisconsin. What does it look like, and what are you hearing out in the field?
We have a lot of programs in place right now from the Trump campaign, from third-party organizations as well, from the Republican Party of Wisconsin even, to be on the ground in ways that we haven't in the past. So that effort is really being stepped up, and we're participating in that. And these programs are really done well. They're organized well, and we haven't seen that historically. So I do believe that, along with, again, the people that are moving into Western Wisconsin, will increase the vote total again for Republicans this time around.
I don't think Democrats think that they're going to win these counties. I mean, they're clearly, obviously not expected to. Their goal for Democrats is to close the margin. How do you ensure that they don't close the margin over the next 90 days?
Well, as I said, we are actively participating in these efforts on the ground. We have many more volunteers. Again, people are calling us, cold calling us, asking, how can I become involved with your party? Over the last several years, our party has tripled in size. So I think that says a lot to just the grassroots effort and what people are feeling on the ground here in Western Wisconsin.
A busy 90 days ahead, now less than 90 days ahead. Matthew Rust, chairman of the Republican Party of St. Croix County. Matthew, hey, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Matt. Glad to be here.
Up next, the enthusiasm gap closing, the new state of the race in Wisconsin, what it all means, what voters are saying. Charles Franklin with his new Marquette Law School poll is here next.